Gopichand, Pullela Gopichand. Many of us have held him in admiration. Many of us have followed him as fans. And many of us try to understand and decode the man behind the coach. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about my experiences with a friend, Pullela Gopichand. Hey folks, I am CSK and you're watching me on my channel CSKSpeaks. This video is a slightly different one. You don't find an inspirational story or you don't find a message coming out of that particular story unlike other videos which I do. However, I'm going to talk to you about a person who is larger than life but who is the true face of humility. I have had the pleasure and privilege of knowing him and engaging with him for over 10 years now. And the one thing which has been common in the last 10 years is his commitment to the development and to the discipline of sports. Now recently, on the 12th of November, I was a part of his book launch, the official autobiography as we call it, The Shuttler's Flick. Now when I met him again, I saw a new version or a new side of this person, Pullela Gopichand. But before I get there, let me start with how our association started. This was in the year 2009 where we had invited him to be a chief guest at one of our school's function. And when he was there, apart from all the other ceremonious things which was done and said, on the sidelines, on the stage, he bent over his chair and whispered these words in my ears. And that keeps ringing even to this day. And in fact, the whole focus of our physical education programs at our schools and wherever I am involved can be anchored down to these two words. And those two words are physical literacy. He said, and I quote here, today's children, in 2009 he mentioned, today's children need to embrace sport and that is critical with every passing year. And he had a story or a example to say. And for the first time, I learned that particular syndrome or scenario from him. He said, today's children are victims of a flat foot disease. What does he mean by that? Is the curve between your fingers and your heel. That curve is very critical for a human body to get its balance or center of gravity. And he said, today more and more students, more and more children are falling prey to a flat foot, and that creates a lot of health related issues as they grow up. For the first time, as I said, I came across this terminology, and when I did my research, it was understood that yes, flat foot is indeed a big thing. Now the simple solution for all of us to get rid of that in our homes, in our lives, especially with our children, is to let them go and engage in a physical activity. And that's what he called it as physical literacy. He said it's very important that today's children are exposed to outdoors. They go play, whatever it is. It doesn't matter whichever game they play, but they got to go out and play. And preferably, they got to go out on barefoot. Because when you start going out barefoot in an environment, you start feeling. And that feeling helps you form that curvature below your feet. And that helps you regain your balance and center of gravity, and then you can grow on to become a very healthy individual. So that was my first experience, and I for the first time felt that here is a man who is not all about pomp and show. Here is a man who does not care about what he has achieved and what he has accomplished. Remember, by 2009, he was already an All England champion, badminton champion, and he was a celebrity in his own right. The simplicity, the humility, all that aside, the commitment he had caught my attention. And ever since then, since we both are in Hyderabad and I have had tremendous opportunities to engage with him, to meet him and to bump into him on numerous occasions, every single time I have learnt a lot. That association, which began in 2009, went on where we had our students going into his academy. And in that conversation, I want to pull out another experience from my life. So it was so that our students were supposed to go to his academy at stipulated schedules, and they used to enjoy the badminton and also the swimming pool and everything what he has built. And there was an administrative issue which we needed to sort out, and that's when I approached him. And when I met him, without blinking an eyelid, he said, well, these decisions are done by my mother. His mother was in charge of the administration of the academy, and this is Gopichand telling that these decisions are something which are under the purview of his mother and not him. And he had no shame in accepting the fact that he did not know how these things work. In fact, it was only later when I understood that Gopichand does not involve himself with any administrative aspects of the academy, but for coaching his proteges. So he is just like another coach in his own academy. All he is concerned with is when and where the coaching standards are falling and what can he do to uplift and upkeep those coaching standards. We've heard of focus, isn't it? If you heard of focus, look at this. This is an example for focus, because the man who has achieved everything in his life is not concerned with his own academy. I mean, we have seen examples where people create an environment, create an institution, and they are hands-on with almost everything, but look at the level of detachment. That's a lesson for me, because as a leader, as a CEO, if I am building an institution, if I am involved in creating enterprises, there should be a great balance of attachment and detachment. And for me, Gopichand showed me that balance. Keep your focus on the main thing and let the main thing remain the main thing. Fast forward several more years, in 2013-14, we had another engagement where this time it was on the sidelines of a sports school. We were building a sports school, and I was talking to him about the sports curriculum and other things, and it was a press conference and he was invited to be there to endorse this philosophy of sports school. And one incident he shared with me kind of caught my attention one more time, and this incident is about Shivaji Maharaj. He quoted, and I am telling you that story, where the spiritual guru of Shivaji Maharaj, Sant Ramdas, Samarth Ramdas as he is popularly known as. So Samarth Ramdas always used to practice before he could preach. We all know that he is the one who is famous for doing 1008 Surya Namaskars every single day, and Gopichand showed me that particular photo where when he had went to that fort, he had captured it in his phone, and there the stone on which Samarth Ramdas used to do that Surya Namaskar has become smooth. The surface has smoothened only because of the number of Surya Namaskars Samarth Ramdas used to do day in and day out. Inspired by him, Gopichand accepts, says, I also wanted to do 1008 and I want to try. And I did try over a period of 2-3 days, and when I actually did it, my body was sore. And then he said, I could not do it for one day. How did the man did it for every day of his life? Now, as humble as it may sound, it is Gopichand accepting it in broad daylight that he tried and it was not easy. That also shows the man's mindset and the man's attitude. But I could not stop, but I asked him. I asked, well, Gopi, why did you even have to try it? Because you look more fitter than any of your trainees or athletes. He said, you know what? I got to preach what I practice. I got to do things before I commit to people that you can't and you should try this out. We've all heard stories when Sindhu, his student, his trainee, won the Olympic medal and made country proud and made his academy proud, made him proud. And she also said, well, Gopi sir used to look into my tiffin box. He used to monitor every ounce of food which used to go into my tiffin box and thereby to my body. Look at the commitment of the man. Because it's one thing to achieve things on your own, it's the other thing, it's a whole different game to get results out of your trainees, become a good coach. And Gopichand to me is that example of being an exceptional individual, a great champion, and then bringing out more champions as an exceptional coach. In fact, the other day on the 12th of November, when his book launch was being launched, the Minister KTR in Hyderabad made a very, very apt comment. In fact, he made two of those comments and I want to share that with you. One, he said, this is by no means an event to suit Gopichand's stature. It's a very, very low-key event where people like us are assembled to release his book to the world. But the second comment he made caught my attention, and that's the comment he said, Gopichand is the true champion of the game. And to me, champion is not the man who wins a medal or a tournament or stays at world number one, but champion is a person who, with his attitude, with his behavior, and with his actions, connect all those things and lead by example. And that's the true man Gopichand is. Well, this video is turning out to be a kind of a praise for Gopichand, but then let me tell you the other side of it. For a man of that stature, if he wanted, he could have had all his proteges coming down and launching his book in public. He could have had the whole world and the media following him. But you know what he did? He did it as simple as it can be by looking at an institution, an academic institution, because he said, institution is always bigger than the individual, and the reason I want to launch this book in an institution is because institution belongs to everybody and not just one person. Second, he did not get Saina Nehwal or Sindhu or Kashyap or any other person to come and do the honors. He just requested his co-author to be present, and then he released that, but because he said the message is more important than the messenger. This goes to show the man himself. And he said, in fact, when he was answering one of the questions in that conversation, he mentioned when he was growing up, he has never waited so much as he has waited for that security guard at the LB Stadium. He said, all my life, the one person for whom I have waited is the security guard. Why? Because his job is to come and open the doors of the stadium at 6 p.m. and if I can be there at 5:30 and I hope that he can come at 5:45 and open it, I get 15 minutes extra to enjoy the court. And he continues. He says, many a times, whenever I used to be there for practice in the mornings or in the evenings, the courts were not available although the stadium was open. Why? Because there was some political rally, so the stage was occupying this court, or there were election ballot boxes which were kept and covering the court. And every other time I used to get irritated as to why the hell are they using my court or the badminton court for all these other ancillary activities. And the man, how he implemented it is, if he wanted, he could have had a mega book launch in his own academy, which is just on the opposite end of that institution, the Indian School of Business, where he launched his book. But the only reason why he chose to do it in an institution and not in his academy is because the courts are meant to be for badminton and nothing else. So leading by example, practicing what you preach and living by it all through is Gopichand to me, and I am extremely delighted to have this association going with him. As we talk, I want to conclude by one another important assignment which he is embarked upon, and he keeps talking about it, which is to bring in sports into everybody's life. He says, when I failed, I had sport as a refuge. When I succeeded, I had sport as a refuge. And he said, looking back, I thank God that I never had much options. Because I did not have much options, I knew that I had to make this count. And that's how he made every match count. But he says that as a coach today, I am responsible for every action, every thought, and every behavior of my trainee. And I have to own up that responsibility, because it does not matter what they do on the court as long as whatever they are doing off the court is in the right alignment. And that's what I want to take a lesson into my life as a teacher. We are all responsible. In fact, one of the questions which was asked to him was, after all this, you've created and proved again and again what you are, why do you wake up every morning, and what inspires you to wake up every morning to do more? And he said, knowing the fact that I am responsible to a bunch of people and their career, I am responsible for their future, makes me to get up from my bed every single day. And of course, the love for the sport and the country. So he says, I oscillate between responsibility and my passion. I think as a teacher, I take back that lesson into my life, that we are all responsible for the future of our students. If you are a parent, you are responsible for your own kids. If you are a teacher, you are responsible for your students. If you are a team leader, you are responsible for that bunch of executives who respect you and who have their trust in you. Being aware of your responsibility, being aware of your entire contribution that matters to their future, I think gives us a lot of energy, a lot of inspiration. And to me, I learnt all these things in these decade-long association with Gopichand. So this video is not about asking you to read his book, Shuttler's Flick. This video is to tell you the man behind the scenes, because I have seen him in close quarters, multiple occasions in the last 10 years or one decade, and every single time I have seen the same soft-spoken person, the same humble and smiling person, and the same passionately committed person towards sport and towards people's lives. So this video, I wanted to bring it up so that we all can take a lesson. Not many of us get opportunities to rub shoulders with a person of that stature, but if I have been blessed, thanks to the Almighty, thanks to people and their good wishes, so I wanted to tell that there is lots to learn in every interaction. And let me also tell you this, none of these stories are in the book. These are stories from my life and my interactions with him. So feel free to follow him and feel free to take lessons from this for your life. Thank you very much for joining me on CSK Speaks.
Hey!